Ever heard of an album? Well, an album inspired by a language with only 12 letters.
Really?
Yeah. Get ready to dive into kairos. It's a minimalist musical journey, and it takes inspiration from, get this, the 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗧𝗏 language
Okay.
and a mysterious ancient lyre.
Wow. That's the 𝗧��𝗧𝗏 language. That's fascinating. I mean, using that as a starting point for music,
Right.
that's really something. It's really fascinating here is how the artist, they use this, what seems like a really limiting thing,
Yeah.
a 12-letter alphabet, and used it as a creative springboard. They saw a framework for minimalist storytelling instead of a boundary.
Yeah, it's like they distilled the essence of storytelling down to its barest form.
Exactly.
But how do you even begin? Like, how do you build a narrative from an alphabet?
That's where the AI comes in.
Okay.
Not as the composer. Right.
But as a collaborator, a creative collaborator, the AI helped to expand each letter from that 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 alphabet into a single word.
Okay.
Each of these words represents a stage in the album's overall journey.
So each song title is a single word, and that's generated from the 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 alphabet.
Exactly.
That's wild. So tell me more about this journey. What's the overarching narrative here?
Okay, so picture this. A lone traveler
Okay.
stumbling upon this ancient lyre.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a scene plucked straight out of Greek mythology.
I love it.
The album chronicles their journey, so you have the initial arrival, right?
Okay.
The struggle to understand the instrument's echoes,
Okay.
the growth of their skills, and so on.
Wow. Okay. I'm already hooked. It's amazing how a simple constraint, the 12-letter alphabet, can spark such an evocative narrative. And that minimalism, that commitment to minimalism, it goes even further. So each of these single-word song titles that we talked about, generated with the AI, they become the foundation for a traditional haiku.
Hold on, haikus, you mean those three-line poems?
Yes.
That often revolve around nature?
Exactly.
I am genuinely curious to hear how they wove the 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏's language and these minimalist narratives into that structure.
Okay, so let me give you an example. The first song, Arrival, right, which stems from that 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 letter A, is transformed into this haiku. Morning dew on strings, lyre's gentle voice awakens, spring's sweet symphony.
Wow, that's stunning. It's amazing how just 3 lines can create such a vivid scene, and it actually kind of hints at a musical direction, too.
Precisely. And you've hit on a key element of the haiku, the kigo, that seasonal reference. In this case, that morning dew and spring's sweet symphony, that places us immediately in spring.
So they used kigo, that seasonal element, in each haiku.
Yes.
Was that a collaborative decision between the artist and the AI, or did the artist have the specific season in mind when they started out?
That's a great question. So initially, the AI pulled from all the different seasons across the haikus, right?
Okay.
But the artist, they wanted to refine the concept even further. So they opted to focus solely on autumn. They envisioned this album as a sonic embodiment of that season.
Interesting. So choosing a single season, it adds another layer of constraint there.
It does.
A creative boundary, which I imagine really shaped the entire feel of the album. What made them settle on autumn, I wonder?
Well, autumn, with the changing leaves and the shortening days, it's often seen as a time of reflection.
Yeah.
Transition, letting go.
Right.
And this really mirrors the traveler's journey of self-discovery.
Okay.
And mastering the lyre. Right.
right.
It's a season of transformation.
Ah, I see it, this subtle parallel between the Alvarez narrative and the natural world. But it's still incredible to me how they translated these haikus, these evocative snapshots of a season, into actual music.
That's where the song style prompts come in.
Okay.
Think of them as minimalist musical blueprints, and each one is inspired by the haiku and centered around, you guessed it, the lyre.
So it's like they took the essence of each haiku and translated it into musical instructions. Give me an example. What would one of these song style prompts look like?
Absolutely. For Arrival, the prompt is ambient lyre, soft pads, gentle percussion. It's like a shorthand, a musical sketch that captures the atmosphere and instrumentation.
This is blowing my mind. So they have these single-word song titles, each meticulously crafted from this 12-letter alphabet.
It's amazing.
Those are transformed into haikus, which then morph into song-style prompts. They're practically building a musical universe from the ground up.
It really is like a universe.
It makes you wonder if they considered, like, incorporated the actual 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏's language into the music itself.
It really does. And you're spot on about them constructing a whole universe. They even explored minimalist cover art ideas with the AI,
Really?
aiming for a visual representation of this entire project.
Wait, a minimalist visual representation of a minimalist album inspired by a minimalist language?
Exactly.
Okay, now I have to know what that looks like.
It really is like stepping into this meticulously crafted world, you know?
Yeah.
And for the cover art, they wanted a visual haiku. They wanted to capture the essence of kairos in a single image, a single evocative image.
Okay, I'm really picturing this visual haiku now.
Yeah.
Did they find an image that lives up to that?
They did.
Okay.
And it really is a testament to the power of simplicity.
Okay.
Okay, picture this. A single autumn leaf
Mm-hmm.
falling gracefully
Mm-hmm.
within a circle.
Oh, I'm seeing it. The circle, right? Like that universal symbol of wholeness,
Yes.
cycles. And then you have the falling leaf signifying both autumn and this idea of change, transition. It's like nature meeting art in its purest form.
Exactly. And here's the masterful touch, the stem of the leaf. It's stylized to resemble a lyre.
Whoa, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So they have the lyre, the autumn leaf, and the circle, and it's all woven together.
Yeah.
And it visually represents all the core elements of the album, the music, autumn, that concept of kairos, of seizing those fleeting moments of opportunity. It's incredible how much thought went into every single detail of this, from the language to the artwork.
It really highlights how these, what we might think of as limitations or creative constraints, can really push artists in fascinating directions.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the creator actually drew inspiration from a legend in the world of minimalist music, Philip Glass.
Oh, Philip Glass. Okay, now we're talking. His music often feels like it exists outside of time, you know?
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear more about this connection to this album.
So what's interesting is how Glass's work, with its use of repetition and these gradual melodic shifts, they create this feeling of being completely immersed in the present moment.
Yeah.
Right? And that sense of presence, that heightened awareness, it ties in beautifully to the idea of kairos, of recognizing and seizing that opportune moment.
It's like his music encourages a different kind of listening.
Yeah.
One where you're hyper aware of each note, you know?
Yes.
Each subtle change. It's almost meditative.
Precisely. And that meditative quality, that awareness of the present moment, that is kairos.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating how they found this musical ancestor, so to speak, in Philip Glass's work.
It really makes you think about the lineage of ideas, right?
Yeah.
Like how something from ancient Greek philosophy can find its way into minimalist music centuries later.
Wow.
It's like they've created this sonic bridge between these seemingly totally disparate worlds. But I'm curious, why the lyre? Of all the instruments they could have chosen as the foundation for this whole project, what led them to the lyre?
Yeah, it feels like such a deliberate choice, you know? Was it purely because of the ancient world imagery, or was there something more to it?
It is interesting you picked up on that. While the lyre's ancient roots definitely tie into the album's whole narrative, its sound played a role too, a crucial role.
Now that you mention it, the lyre does have this very distinct sound. I mean, there's a reason it's so often associated with, like, myths and legends and things.
Exactly. There's this, like, delicacy to it, this evocative quality to the lyre, almost timeless.
Yeah.
You know, it just naturally lends itself to this minimalist approach.
Right.
It's offering space and resonance.
Yeah. Rather than overwhelming the listener.
And that makes perfect sense when you consider those minimalist song-style prompts we talked about. They weren't exactly calling for, like, a full orchestra or anything.
Precisely. Imagine those haikus, right. But brought to life through the lyre.
Okay.
Sparse, elegant compositions, full of space, contemplation.
Wow.
It's like they created a soundscape for introspection, perfectly mirroring that mood of autumn.
You know, this entire deep dive has really highlighted the power of constraints in the creative process. Who would have thought that a 12-letter alphabet, a single instrument, and a single season could be such fertile ground for innovation?
It's a powerful reminder that limitations, when we embrace them, they can actually push us to be more resourceful.
Yeah.
More creative, right. It's about looking at boundaries not as obstacles, but as springboards for something new.
It makes you wonder, what perceived limitations are holding us back in our own creative pursuits? What would happen if we started viewing those limitations as opportunities?
Now, that is a question worth pondering. This entire album, with its minimalist approach, that AI collaboration, and this unique inspiration, it's a testament to that very idea. What opportune moments, to borrow from Kairos, what are we overlooking in our own lives? What creative sparks might we ignite if we just shifted our perspective?
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. I know I'm going to be looking at limitations in a whole new light, and who knows, maybe I'll even give writing a haiku a try. Thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey into the creative process behind kairos.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time, remember, embrace those limitations, seize those creative opportunities.